AITA for skipping study group when a kid is there? I'm 20F, a student at a community college. I have 3 days a week, and after class a group of us grabs lunch and coffee and sits down in the library to do homework together. Honestly, it's just as much a social thing as it is academic, and it's a lot of fun. A month into the semester, a 10-year-old girl joined the class. She's a genius, and high school math was too easy for her, so she's taking math and biology here. As smart as she is, she's still a little kid. She has a princess backpack and lunchbox, and her backpack has more toys than books. Her nanny was constantly late to pick her up, and she can't check herself into the campus daycare, so someone invited her to join the study group. Not a kid person. Being in the same class as one is weird enough, but I'm not going to get coffee, or in her case, a juice box, and hang out with one. I went to study group when she was there once, and it was just weird. The whole mood is different. She joins the group on Mondays and Wednesdays, so I said that I have to work early on those days and do homework at home. Then on Fridays I group, and it's like the baby genius doesn't exist. Then on Friday she asked if she could join us. Her nanny called in sick, so she had to wait on campus until her mom could pick her up. The group said yes, so I started to leave. Someone asked where I was going, so I said I got called in to work early. Well, that made them figure it out, and I got texts from half the group asking if I'm seriously skipping the group because there's a kid there, and all calling me immature and saying I hurt baby genius's feelings by not wanting to go to group when she's there. I told my mom about it, and she agrees that I'd stupid and immature to miss study group just because there's a kid there. AITA for skipping the group? AITA for kicking a girl out of my party for calling her boyfriend daddy? I, F24, was hosting a small-scale hangout with about 15 friends. One girl, F23, is an acquaintance of mine, and she came with her boyfriend. We were all sitting around in the main room and eating pizza when she came to sit and sat on her boyfriend's lap. A little weird since there were open seats, but I didn't say anything. While we were talking as a group, she would always refer to her boyfriend as Daddy. She would interject with things like, "Daddy just bought me a new stand mixer," and "Daddy looks so handsome in this shirt, right?" I told him to get it. At first, we thought she was joking or messing with us, but she continued doing it, and the rest of USWERE side eyeing each other and were kind of uncomfortable. I asked her if she could save the pet names for home because some of us were feeling uncomfortable. She got upset and told me to stop making such a big deal over a nickname and *loot shaming her. I told her that wasn't my intention at all, but I would appreciate if she could stop because it was killing the vibe. She started ranting at me about a whole lot of stuff, and I just told her and her boyfriend to please leave. Her boyfriend was *ist too, but they eventually got out. The rest of the evening was less uncomfortable and way more peaceful. A few of my friends who didn't know the girl I kicked thanked me for making her leave, but we all felt kind of awkward because of what happened. AITA?
AITA for blowing up at my girlfriend because she keeps zoning out? My girlfriend always seems to zone out whenever there are really long conversations. She zones out if I talk about my day, or how work went, or even when we're out with friends. And whenever we call attention this, she always says it's because it was pretty boring. I asked her if she might have ADHD, and she's trying to make an appointment with a therapist but hasn't been able to, and as of yet, she's still looking. Yesterday, we had dinner at my parents' house, and she began drifting off. My dad pointed this out, and she apologized but then did it again. When the dinner was over, and we drove back, I got really annoyed and I yelled at her that she can't just keep saying sorry and expecting me to be cool with it. She told me it was out of her control. Then I said to get it under control, then. Today, she's been very quiet and withdrawn, and I am feeling really bad for how I acted. AITA? AITA for telling my sister she has done nothing to deserve being my maid of honor? I'm 26F and my sister is 22F. My sister and I don't have a close relationship, and I can't say there was ever a time I considered her a friend or even a good family member. Most of it isn't truly her fault, but times like these I do place more on her. My parents believed that being the older sister, I needed to make sacrifices for her. If we were getting takeout and she wanted pizza and I wanted Chinese, well, she was the baby, so I should agree with pizza for her sake. If we both had birthday party invites for the same day, well, she should get a go and I should be fine staying home. Same with going to see a movie as a family. Or choosing where to go on vacation. We were all supposed to get a vote, but hers always counted as 2, so after a while it seemed pointless. When we got older, it was often a thing I would need to cancel plans if Shahad plans my parents couldn't take her to, or if they needed someone to watch her, and then they would order food before they left, so she'd get what she wanted and I'd just have to deal. I know stuff like that isn't uncommon, and in moderation I don't think it's awful. But there was never any balance. My parents would argue that being meant I had more freedom and that was what I should focus on. But that freedom meant nothing because I couldn't make the most of it. My sister grew to expect I would always let her get her way, and when she turned 17 and I had been out of the house, and out of her life and my parents' lives, she reached out and wanted to know why I left, and I told her. She told me she'd do, and we started to repair things, and I would call her on being selfish. But it hasn't really improved, and I have felt the relationship is more of a chore than a joy in my life. A few weeks ago I got engaged to my partner, and I asked my 3 closest friends to be my bridesmaids, and I chose to forego the maid of honor because all 3 are equally loved by me. She assumed she was my maid of honor, and I told her she wasn't. She wanted to know why, and I told her maid of honor is a special role and we're not close enough for that. She then comes out with how she deserves it for being a good sister and how I'm being mean and taking the past out on her. I told her she had done nothing to deserve being maid of honor. That AITA's not the past when it still actively happens, still tries to get me to treat her like her choice is worth more than mine. She started to cry and told me she'd been trying and I'm being mean to her instead of giving her time. But it's been 5 years of me calling out her BS, and of me telling her when she's acting like she has since we were kids. I think she expects me to always just deal with it under the guise of time. But she ended up and was really upset. She told me after that she understood I didn't always like her, but that I was really mean with what I said. AITA?
AITA? My roommate is complaining that my BF is staying over too often and I think she's being unreasonable. Final edit: I stopped replying to comments because I'm having to repeat the same thing over and over. So, one last time I will say that this has only been going on for the last month and a half, almost month and 3 weeks. I've counted, and it's been 10 times in the past month and a half that he has stayed with me. He has only stayed with me 3 times since March started, only on the weekends. When he comes over, it is always in the evening when we are coming home from bars, after spending the entire day working on his house, and he leaves first thing in the morning to continue working on Reno. It might be hard to believe, but we are almost never in shared spaces. Truly almost never. The man really is just there to have a roof over his head while he sleeps. Edit: I said he sometimes works from my place on weekdays, but it has been maybe 3 Fridays. I am always home on those Fridays, because I work part-time, and my roommate is not home because she also has a job. Edit 2 *, my boyfriend is pretty much only actually at the apartment at night so that we can sleep. The only real space he is taking up is in my bed. Edit 3 *, my roommate and I have had multiple discussions about my boyfriend staying over a little more frequently at night, and every single time she has maintained that it does not bother her. Edit 4 *, he got this house so we can move in together. He will have floors in his house by the end of March and will no longer need to stay with us as often. My lease is up in June, and I will move into the house with him. I, 22F, have lived with my roommate, 24F, for about 2 years. My BF, 28M, and I have been together since before my roommate and I moved in together. Currently, he lives an hour away from me, a couple towns over. About a month and a half ago, he was able to purchase a house in my town and has been renovating it. As is, it is unlivable. There are no floors in the entire house, so staying there is no tan option. It also doesn't make sense for him to drive the hour back home when I live 2 minutes from the new house. Today, my roommate texted me and said she wants to have a conversation about how often he's been staying over. Over the past month and a half, he has stayed over about 2 nights a week on average. Sometimes 3 nights, sometimes 1. It is almost always during the weekend. He is repairing the house during the day, and we will go out at night or sometimes chill at my place after. Maybe 3 to 4 times total during this entire month and a half. He has worked from my apartment, he works from home, on a weekday. It's usually a Friday, but he always works in my room so as to not take up our shared space, such as the kitchen table. I am also always home when he is there. I have my own room and bathroom, so he isn't taking any of her personal space whatsoever. I will also mention that tour utility bills have not increased whatsoever during this time. I checked. Who is the A*hole here? Am I wrong to think she's being unreasonable? This hasn't ever been a problem during the last 2 summers, for example, where he stayed most weekends after going to the beach and hanging with friends. I don't see why it's suddenly an issue now. Side note. I go to see him at his place all the time, usually at least once a week, and have complained to my roommate on many occasions that I wish he'd come to me 1 or 2 nights a week so I don't have to drive as much, so I've been extremely happy that the new house means he comes to me more. She has always agreed that he should come to me more so I don't have to drive constantly, and now that he's doing just that, it's an issue.